Hey, welcome to the channel, Over the Hill with Will. Today we're coming to you live with something different. Today's content is going to be a lot different than what any subject that we've typically covered. Usually we're talking about bikes, but today we're going to be talking about COVID and how it's affected me. I'm actually going to make a video series, so today's not going to be the only video, but today's going to be the first video that I'm putting out there. And I just want you to know that what we're going to do is we're going to do some questions and answers type stuff. But today I'm just going to throw that out there. Please comment below, like and subscribe to the channel, but definitely comment. Ask me some questions. I want to answer questions. I want to talk about my experience. You also can leave some comments about your experience. What have you had to deal with? Whether it's you personally being sick, someone that you know that's had it and not pulled through. And I'm sorry, I do know some people personally that haven't pulled through. And that's kind of why I'm making these videos. We're going to talk about this because one thing that I've dealt with since March is continuously struggling with the battle of myself of what's real, what's not. So that's the things that we're going to be tackling is, first of all, COVID is real. I'm telling you, if you're friends with me and you know me personally, I'm telling you that it's real. The fact that I'm sitting here today and able just to even have this conversation is actually, it's taken a lot. I've actually spent about 3 or 4 days just trying to prepare to make this first video based upon the facts of how hard that it's affected me. One, if you notice, sorry for the coughing, how heavy that I'm breathing. And the fact that I'm actually able to say this without coughing like a bazillion times is actually, you have no idea how, what that means. I am struggling to breathe. You might be able to see it and may portray on here, but I want to talk to you about how real that this is and the effects that it has. The fact that I even have this much energy right at this moment is pretty amazing. I might actually just blame it on the Coke Zero that I'm drinking and a protein bar, but the facts are, I'm still, and I know I'm going to be for a while, but I'm still dealing with the effects of COVID. For those of you who don't know, I tested positive, 16 days ago I tested positive. 17 days ago, I started feeling bad. And when I started feeling bad, what it felt like was when the one time I had the flu that put me in the hospital. It came on so quickly that I knew something wasn't right. And I went ahead at that time, and I'll go ahead and tell you that was the only day for a few days that I was actually around people. But because I already was feeling the effects of something isn't right, I made sure I didn't go near anybody. I finished up my duties at church. That's where I was at. I was at church and I was serving, but I made sure that day that I didn't go around anybody on purpose. The main thing that hit me was I felt like I had a fever, and it was different than any other fever I'd ever had before, except for the one time I got the flu that put me in the hospital. It kind of came on pretty quick, and it was pretty intense. I didn't question whether I had a fever. I knew it. And then my daughter came up to bring me something to drink, and she didn't know that there was anything wrong with me, and I just asked her. I just grabbed her hand and put it on my head, and she was like, "Oh, wow, Daddy, you're super hot." And I was like, "Thank you." That's what I was glad that she told me that, because I just didn't want to think that I was making it up. So anyway, the first thing I did when I came home was check my temperature. Well, I didn't have a fever. So I just brushed it off as, okay, well, that was weird, but no big deal, but I didn't have a fever. I was tired a couple hours later, which is not abnormal for a Sunday, especially a Sunday that I'm serving. But what is abnormal is I went and laid down. And when I went and laid down, I fell asleep, and I don't ever do that. I don't take naps and I don't fall asleep. And when I do, it's because I'm sick. But when I woke up, I checked I used a thermometer and checked my temperature, and I had a temperature, and it was 100. I think it was 100.1. I went and lay back down, woke up about an hour later. I was sweating, so I checked my temperature again. At that time, it was like 102. I lay back down, probably roughly about another hour, and then I woke back up, checked my temperature again. It was like 102.8 or 9. It had gone up. At that point, I started getting worried, and I told my wife at that point, I think something's wrong. I probably need to go to the doctor tomorrow. And both of us actually said maybe I should get tested, and I said yes, because it just didn't feel right. It was definitely something was different. So yeah, that was the start of it. I did go the very next day. I got tested, and I tested positive, and I was pretty certain that I would. And it wasn't really a big deal, because I'll be honest with you, when I got tested, which was that which was Monday, I didn't actually feel that bad. But it did put me in a mental state of like, oh crap, who have I been around? What about, like, I just immediately went into the thing. So I actually contacted all the people that, and luckily it was just a very small amount of people. I contacted all the people that I was around on Sunday, which was thankfully just a few people, and let them know that I had tested positive and to monitor themselves. And well, then I started having a plan of like, well, what am I going to do for this? Because now I've got a quarantine now, and I talked to the health department, and luckily someone that I personally know from the health department is the person they called, and they didn't even know that when they called me, because I had my real name on the thing, and I go by BJ, but my real name is William. That's why it's over the hill with Will. But a lot of people don't know me as William. And so she didn't realize that's who she was talking to, but I knew who I was talking to. I recognized her voice right away, so it was just kind of funny that after a few minutes of her, when she realized it was me. So her and I we had previously had discussions about different aspects of COVID. Now both of us were talking about me with it, and which was kind of ironic considering the conversation that we had on social media just a few days before about how it affects people, and can people have it twice? That was actually the conversation. So yeah, you guys can take this journey with me, and I'm gonna try to make some videos, depending on how I feel, because I'll just be honest with you, I've been trying to do this for several days, and even during my process of having it, I said I was gonna make some videos and didn't feel like it. That's something they should know, that I hit a wall, and as much as I wanted to make videos, I only made a few. And I may or may not post them. I may tie them in with some of the videos that I did here, because I know that I spoke from the heart, but I also maybe said some things that I shouldn't have said. I don't know. I'm going to review them and just kind of see. But yeah, if you have any questions, please ask. That way I can do a follow-up video, which would hopefully be tomorrow, because I'm going to do a series of these, of my experiences. And I want to hear about your experiences. How has it affected you? If you've already had it, if you're going through it now. I just want to, I want to start this off with some of the things y'all made me have seen me post on social media. It's real. They're like, please don't think in your mind that any of this is just politically motivated, because I don't have the way that I am with politics. I don't even talk about politics, mostly because of being a business owner. I don't really want people to know how I feel, because it can affect my business. And as a matter of fact, once I retired, one of the first things I said to my wife was, you know what, now I can actually talk about how I feel and not worry about if I offend someone else. But then we also own another business, so she had to remind me that no, I really can't. So I don't actually share political stuff. One thing I will share is this is not political. My experience had nothing to do with politics. It had nothing to do with any mandates or non-mandates, or it doesn't have anything to do with the current president or the new president, or I guess after tomorrow will be like the past president. Like, it has nothing to do with politics. It has all to do with me and my own accountability. And we're going to talk about that over the next few days, because a lot of questions. The number one question that I've had from people so far is, well, how did you get it? My answer is, I don't know. If any of us knew how we were getting it, none of us would get it. That's just facts. I'm going to be able to share with you my experience of beforehand and the things that I did before I tested positive. so that you can even see that this is the first time for me that I can answer some of those questions, and it's still pretty confusing. On top of that fact, there's actually someone else in my household that ended up testing positive that I haven't been around. Just so you know, I didn't come out of my room until the 15th day. I'm sorry, that's a lie. I did actually come out 2 times. One time I came out on Christmas morning, and I'll just be honest with you, I came out for about 30 minutes. My family set up a space where I was completely away from them in an area that we don't typically use. And so I sat from a distance and watched my kids open their presents, and they sanitized, or not they, I won't say my wife sanitized that space before I came into it, which is right by our front door. And then after I left, and they took everything out of that room so that there was nothing there except for, I won't say they took it out. I took everything that was in that little small area, I took with me back into my bedroom when I went back into my bedroom. So I was out for about 30 minutes. And then on day number 14, towards the end of the day, I did come out of my room and came into the rest of the house, and didn't feel very confident about staying out. I actually took my mask, or put my mask on, because that's actually just like on Christmas, just so you know, yes, I was out. But per the instructions of the health department, I put on a mask. I actually wore latex gloves. I put on fresh, clean clothes before I came out, something that I had not worn. I didn't touch anything. And so, yeah, so that the fact that someone else in my household tested positive later is confusing. And we're going to talk about that too. So yeah, if you have any questions, comment below. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel. This is not the typical content, but I'll just be honest with you, I don't know what kind of content that I'm going to do here in the future. You know, Over the Hill has some different meanings, and you know, as you get to know me, you'll see that that's why I came up with the name Over the Hill with Will. It actually has multiple different concepts and multiple different meanings to be used in a certain sort of way. Most of y'all know that I'm very active in the bicycle world, and I just recently started riding mountain bikes, and that is part of this. But yeah, we're going to talk about some different stuff. Most of this COVID series. Again, like and subscribe, comment, ask me some questions. I'm going to read over them and I'll answer them. If you don't want me to say your name, you can comment and say, don't say my name. I won't mention anybody's last names. If whatever questions I ask, I may just say, well, Sally asked this question, or I may just say, someone asked this. I haven't really thought that through very much, but I don't want it to discourage you. If you want it, you can send me a message on Facebook privately. I've already had people do that, just so you know. I've had actually a lot of people reach out to me, more people than I could even think about, and a lot of people are just asking me questions and sharing their experience. So it's actually been pretty refreshing. So yeah, welcome back to the channel. We're gonna do this, and we're gonna navigate through this, and hopefully it'll help save somebody. I'll go ahead and tell you up front before I end this video, go ahead and start taking vitamin C and vitamin D. Try to get your immune system built up. That is part of what has affected me. I feel like my immune system was pretty good. Again, we'll talk about that later. But go ahead and start taking vitamin C and vitamin D every day. I know you can get vitamin D from the sun, 100%, but build your immune system up. Start with that. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow.